The arrest of a serving Metropolitan Police Officer, PC Dion Arnold, who's been charged with a series of grave and serious offences. This case, now before the courts, requires us not only to acknowledge the allegations themselves of a sexual nature, but also to reckon with the broader structural questions about policing, power, and public confidence. PC Dion Arnold, 32 years old, attached to the Met Southwest Command Unit, was arrested on March 29th by Surrey police, and just 2 days later, on March the 31st, he was formally charged with a total of 7 serious offences, and these include 4 counts involving non-consensual acts of the most invasive kind, as well as further allegations of unwanted sexual contact. All of these relate to conduct alleged to have occurred while he was off duty. Arnold appeared at Guildford Magistrates Court on the same day as his charging and has since been remanded in custody, and his next court appearance is scheduled for May the 1st at Guildford Crown Court. As is standard procedure in such cases, he's been suspended from duty and the Metropolitan Police's Directorate of Professional Standards has been informed. Now, let me be clear, these are allegations, and the judicial process must run its course, and guilt or innocence will be determined by the court, not in the court of public opinion. But the case raises disquieting and necessary questions. This is not the first time that the police service in this country has faced scrutiny over the behaviour of one of its own, and in recent years we've seen the names of Cousins, Carrick and now Arnold, each associated with a profound breakdown in the trust between the police and the public, and each carrying an echo of unchecked power, institutional complacency and flawed recruitment. And at the heart of the issue is the troubling relationship between authority and abuse. And the police are granted exceptional powers to detain, to interrogate, to restrain. And with those powers must come an equally exceptional standard of ethical conduct. When those entrusted with protecting the public are instead accused of predatory behaviour, we're dealing with not merely an individual failing, but the fracturing of the system. And this is the problem. Police in the UK, indeed across many democracies, is facing a recruitment crisis. And forces struggle to attract new candidates, especially those with the empathy, the patience, the psychological robustness, the resilience that modern policing demands. Instead, we're worrying, there are worrying suggestions that the allure of uniform and authority can sometimes draw in precisely those individuals who should be kept as far away from such power as possible. This isn't just a question of vetting. Though vetting procedures have repeatedly been shown to be insufficient, it's a question of culture, of how officers are trained, how complaints are handled, how misconduct is tolerated or excused, and it's about what sort of people are attracted to the role and what sort of people are allowed to remain in it. And the Metropolitan Police has pledged reform, particularly following the Casey Review, which described the force as institutionally misogynistic and riddled with pockets of toxic behaviour. Yet you've got to ask, how much has changed? And cases like this, where the accused is a serving officer, exacerbate the climate of suspicion and fear. For victims of sexual violence of any form, the knowledge that the perpetrator might be someone with a badge, someone who could theoretically be the person to whom they would report a crime, is not just chilling, it's corrosive to justice. And let's consider what this means in communities already disillusioned with policing, among young people, minority groups, and especially women. The ripple effects go far beyond the courtroom. And you've got to ask, what is to be done to change this mood, this canker? Firstly, recruitment must become more rigorous, not just in terms of criminal record checks, but psychological assessments, character vetting, values-based interviewing. Secondly, internal culture must be overhauled. Zero tolerance for misogyny, zero tolerance for racism, bullying, or silence. And thirdly, leadership within the police must model the transparency and accountability it demands of citizens. Subjects of Her Majesty, a subject of His Majesty, need to give answers, and so should the police who are asking them. We are all equal in front of the law. We are all equal in front of the Crown. But lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we must disabuse ourselves of the idea that a few bad apples are the problem. Bad apples rot because the barrel is poorly maintained. It's not enough to pluck them out once the damage is done. The conditions that breed them need to be eradicated. And the case of PCD on Arnold will proceed through the courts, and justice will, one hopes, be done. But let this be a moment, not simply for legal accountability, but for institutional introspection and reform. Because trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. And we live in a country where the police protect rather than intimidate. They serve rather than exploit. And the time for cosmetic fixes is over. We need the police to be doing what it says on the tin. We need the police to be people to whom we can turn for assistance. We can turn for help. We can turn for advice. The entire orchard needs to be made sound. It's not about sort of identifying the occasional bad apple. It's about ensuring that this crop is fundamentally good. And I worry at the moment that isn't the case. I'd be really interested to know what you think. And I'd be really interested to know what direction the police can go. I think the police is constrained by the fact that ultimately the Home Office is in a mess. And I don't think that can be at all a positive for the police force. But the police can only survive in our country with our support. And the police need to know that they've got our support, just as we need to know that the police are there for us when we need them. It's a reciprocal relationship. Anyway, let me know what you think.